What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at Irving Plaza, and today we return in the flesh with Kris of the Almighty Trauma. Great to be able to see you in person instead of over the Zoom during lockdown, right?
Yeah. Glad to be here, man. Yeah.
It's so awesome to have you here. Your new album, Awakening, first off, I think it's a real inspiration after all the tragedy that you guys had to overcome to release this album and give it to us. Thank you so much for that. When it came to the making of this album, like, obviously this was a completely different experience than what you've done in your previous works, right? Was this almost kind of like a brand new approach and almost kind of like a reinvention of Trauma in a way?
Sort of, because the original singer Donnie passed away, and then we got Brian Allen, in the band to do the vocals, and it's just brought a whole different vibe to the whole thing, So.
If you don't mind me asking, was there a vision to what Awakening was already supposed to sound like, or did you guys not really put pen to paper on writing until after Brian joined up with the band and you guys made the decision to move on?
Yeah, we kind of had a little bit of a concept. The songs were written, the artwork was done, but when he got involved, we had to fine tune a few things to have it work with his voice a little bit better. But it was pretty much already in the works.
Yeah. So it's like it wasn't like you had to completely reinvent the wheel in terms of your sound. It's still Trauma. Because I know that Brian played with a lot of different bands previously as well. So did you want him to kind of do exactly what Donnie was doing before, or like you wanted him to bring his own mix into it?
Yeah, I mean, there was no way that he was going to be able to do, we didn't want someone that was going to completely just replicate what Donnie did, that somebody had to bring their own thing into it. Yeah. And, Brian did a really good job with that.
Of course. And, with overcoming all this grief and tragedy aside, this was also the first Trauma album in quite a long time as well. So, it's fair to say, when you make a new album, it's not like you're really looking back and seeing what you've done previously. It's only really looking forward, right?
Yeah, I mean, the last one we did was As the World Dies, which came out in 2018. So it wasn't that long ago that we did put another album out, but... we're just doing them now, and each one kind of has its own elements to it. We like to switch it up a little bit, but this one we wanted to kind of go back to the band's roots a little bit, make it a little faster, a little heavier, and I think we accomplished that.
Yeah. Is there at all a preconceived vision? Because I do think between As the World Dies and this album that there is almost kind of a fair amount of differences. Is it always do you always start off with a vision, or is it a very sort of improvisational songwriting process?
It depends when the collection of songs all come together. Then we start getting ideas like, okay, what are we going to call this thing? And then we get a little bit of an idea of what to name it. And, everything just kind of falls in place after that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As the drummer of Trauma, too, this is a conversation I like to have with drummers, because a lot of people believe that because there's no melody in the drums, that there's really no emotion channeled into it. But, I mean, I think that's total BS. It's fair to say that with your instrumentation, you're channeling a lot of energy and a lot of emotion into it, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's basically, I'm kind of like the engine of the whole thing, the role of a drummer. But, yeah, there's a lot of emotion that goes into it for sure, even though, it's just kind of different, it's not like playing a melodic instrument, but there is melody in the drums, Mm-hmm.
Do you always prefer to have music before you know what your parts are going to be like, or have you ever had a whole pattern written and the band could write over that?
Kind of, it goes both ways, Sometimes you get a song presented to you that is 80% done. Sometimes I can come up with a drum riff, or drum pattern or something. It's we come up with something that way too. It just really depends.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now, I do got to ask this, because next year I think it's going to be a big year for Trauma, as, it's going to be 40 years of Scratch and Scream, the debut. So first off, I want to start off with this. What was the sort of mindset going into the making of your debut? What was the sort of vision behind that, and before we get more into that album?
Oh, wow. That was a long time ago. Yeah. There really was no vision. We just happened to have the tracks to record, and we just went in and we were playing all those songs live, and then we just went in and recorded them, and came up with the title and the album cover and put it out. It was that simple.
I mean, I feel like with every band in the Bay Area with like their debut, it was always like the simplest explanation or the simplest approach was always the best, right?
Yeah.
And how would you say you've evolved since Scratch and Scream in a way? Like, what would you say was such? Because there's obviously been a lot of different lineup changes. Has collaborating with different members maybe opened up new doors for you on a technical level?
Yeah, I mean, we put the Scratch and Scream album out so many years ago, and then took a very long hiatus, and then we put up the first one that we did was 2013 with the re-release of Scratch and Scream, and then we put Rapture and Wrath out, As the World Dies, and now the album Awakening. So, we try to make each one better as we're going along.
Is there any plans to have like a celebration of that album in the near future?
Perhaps. I really don't like dwelling that far back in the past, to be honest. I'd rather just keep it all fresh and moving forward.
Yeah. It would be cool to hear, though, like that album performed in its entirety. I mean, at one point, right?
Well, we did that once at the Headbangers Open Air Festival in Germany in 2014. Okay. The promoter basically just wanted us to play all that, and we did. And then we played new songs off the at that time, the upcoming Rapture and Wrath album. And people really liked it. But, we'll see what happens,
Because I think there's always stuff between Scratch and Scream, Rapture and Wrath, As the World Dies, and Awakening. There's always their different elements that I think that make each album sort of stand out in a way.
Yeah, of course. Yep. Yeah.
And the final question I wanted to ask you tonight is kind of this is going to be my first time seeing Trauma live tonight. I'm very excited to see it. Yep. Is there at all a similar energy that's channeled into the live presence as you with songwriting, or is it a completely separate art altogether?
Yeah, it's completely separate. I mean, you go in the studio and it's quiet and all this, and then you go play a live gig and it's like you play in front of a crowd, so it's quite different. Yeah. But yeah.
Is stage presence almost something that could be rehearsed in a way as much as the song, or is that just something that you have to naturally master over time?
I mean, there are bands that do that. We don't. We just go out and play. Yeah.
And depending, too, because, I mean, you've had, like, I feel like you've played at a variety of different venues and settings as well, between, like, festivals. You're playing at Irving Plaza tonight, but I know that in the Bay Area days, hole-in-the-wall places were almost kind of like a specialty as well. Right. Is the energy different, too, depending on, like, the live setting in a way?
Well, yeah. I mean, some nights, back in those days, I mean, we played in front of sometimes, barely anybody there, type crowds. I mean, it just... And we always did put on a good show, because we like playing live, but it definitely helps when there's like a crowd that gets into it.
Yeah. Crowd feeds off the band and the band feeds off the crowd, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Yep, and I'm so excited to finally see you guys live tonight. I missed the early days, speaking of which, of Scratch and Scream. It'll feel good to hear some songs and be -9 again. But
it's all good.
Yeah. Is there just anything else with Trauma that you'd like to promote for the Awakening cycle after your tour with Queensryche and Marty Friedman?
Yeah, the only thing that we have, coming up is hopefully some more dates. I don't know when they're going to be yet, and hopefully a run over to Europe, but it's being worked on right now. So we just got to see what comes in.
Hell yeah. We're hoping to hear more. And most of all, thank you so much for continuing on and giving us this amazing new music the band plays on. And, awesome. A lot of the fans are very thankful for you guys.
Yeah. Well, I thank the fans for liking it. Yeah, awesome.
Everybody, we are here with Trauma. Be sure to check out Awakening out now, and be sure to catch them on the tour with Queensryche and Marty Friedman. We will see you next time on Heavy New York.